So to start with, I've got my 150 grams here. I'm going to add a little bit of CMC. So you know how much. I'm just feeling the paste because autumn leaf doesn't really make a big difference to the colour, adding it to the sugar paste. It doesn't really soften it or firm it like some of the colours. So I'm probably going to go with a slightly heaped, less than, well, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of CMC. And we'll just get that combined. We can work with it straight away, but we'll find that it firms up as we work through making the model. So you can see I've kind of folded that into the paste, and now I'm just moving it about. But I'm working on it and mixing it in over the surface so that I don't drop it on the floor. I don't want this on my floor because when you add water to it, it goes slimy. It's the glue. Okay. And then, as I do with a lot of my models, I'm going to divide the paste, but this time I'm just going to perhaps divide it into 2 pieces. One which will be for the head, arms, or the front legs, back legs, and the other part will be for his body. So his body's slightly larger, but we've got to be careful. We need to make sure that we've actually got enough. But when we make the teddy bear, we divide it into 3, but I'm feeling like we want to make the body a fraction larger than the rest. And then, so if I am dividing it, I've actually got a large piece and 2 slightly smaller ones. And if you want a bit of a guide on there, I'll just weigh this for you so you can see. It's about 60 grams. And as a ball, I just roll that into a ball and set it on my ruler. You'll be able to see it's about 4.5 centimeters, just over. Okay, so 1 3/4 inches if you're preferring to work on there. So the 2 smaller parts, they can go in your bag. Just make sure everything's covered up so it doesn't dry out, especially today because you've got a very dry day. And we're going to give this a good warm up and roll it into an elongated cone. So giraffes are tall, and this is the only way we can make him tall, is to give him a taller body. So he's going to be slimmer than the teddy bear. So once you've given it a good old twist, press it quite firmly between your palms. You'll end up with something that looks a little bit like a spinning top. And then gradually release your pressure so that it reveals a ball that should be fairly crack free. If you have got cracks, then you can use your thumb just to massage or smooth in the crack and then go back to your rolling. Okay. Now, when you're rolling the cone, what we want to do is hold it into the palm of your hand. I hold it in my non-dominant hand. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to roll the cone and shape the cone with my left hand. So if you're right-handed, you want maybe to do that the other way. And I'm going to sit this part of my palm, I call this the chicken drumstick, onto there, pressing a little bit more firmly on one side. We're going to start to roll that so that it goes from here across your palm. Okay, so your other palm's got a nice well in it, which should help it not fly. If you find it easier, you can actually set this on your surface and roll. And we don't want to make it too skinny. It just runs the risk of flopping over, but it's definitely longer than the majority of the characters that we would make. And to give you an idea in terms of length, I'm just going to swap camera. You can see it's about 8 centimeters in length. And this can then be set upright onto your little dummy or onto your board. I'm just going to drop that on there. I need to make sure I've got enough room in front for his legs. And if you are putting it on a piece of oasis, you need to make sure that you've drilled a hole where whatever you're stabilizing the body with will fit in and come out easily. So because he's got quite a tall body, I'm thinking that it would be better with a kebab stick But if you prefer not to have something solid, if you want something edible in there, then you can use your spaghetti stick. But it's quite a tall piece, which could lead to the spaghetti stick breaking. So I've actually trimmed this to size. So it's going to sit in the oasis and it's going to come above by about 1 centimetre. So you can trim it after it's gone in. The important thing is that your kebab stick or whatever you're using goes all the way to the base of the paste, so right to the bottom. And if you are using polystyrene or some kind of oasis, then you want to push it into the oasis a little bit. If you're using a board like this one's set on a board, then your stick will hit the surface. It doesn't just want to be suspended halfway through the body, it needs to actually touch the surface. So next step is to push 2 indentations in either side of where we've marked a belly button using the spaghetti stick. And then you want to glue into those indentations and either side of the belly button. The belly button is just a guide, it's not going to show. On the back, if you want to put, I just use the back of a paintbrush. I don't want to dig in, but I want to make the start of an indentation for his tail. So it's almost like we're giving him a crease in his bottom. So I've just kind of rested the brush onto the surface there and then levered upwards so that we give him a little crease in his bottom. And that as well can have a little bit of glue. So the idea, my tail has actually dropped off, but it gives something for the bottom part of the tail to anchor to. And then we can put this to one side for a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create the legs. So coming back to one of our cut pieces of the same colour. And in terms of measurement, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about getting a bit of a size guide. It's very difficult to know what's going to fit. So the best thing I can suggest initially when you're working this out is to take a blob of paste and form it in the shape you're kind of wanting to achieve, just roughly. And then you can hold that up against the character to see whether or not it's going to fit. And if you feel it's too large, then you can take a bit off and vice versa. Okay, so I think that might be a little bit on the large side. So knowing that I'm happy with that piece of paste, I can go ahead and match that ball size either in weight or by eye. Now I prefer to work by eye. As a guide for you, this is coming in at about 2¼ centimetres, 3/4 of an inch. If you're on scales, you need a really accurate set of scales that will give you 0.00 of a gram, about 7, maybe 8 grams. The problem you've got is where even by eye, it's very difficult to match. If you've only got just a normal set of kitchen scales, which will weigh up a gram or down a gram, then of course you could be a gram out on whatever you're doing. And you can get yourself really hung up using a pair of scales. So I prefer to do it visually. Okay, so they're pretty much the same. Let's just test it. 7.64, 7.73, very close. Take a tiny bit off if you want to. Okay, so to form the legs, they're kind of a bit bulbous at one end, so I like to achieve that by rolling a sausage, but just with using maybe one finger. I'll show you what I mean. So if you put one ball, make sure it's nice and warmed up. So we're going to twist, squidge. If your paste is feeling super soft and you have put CMC in, you just need to be a bit patient because it will set itself up a little bit firmer. But maybe if you haven't put enough in, you could put just a little bit more. So with the finger, I'm going to start in the center. Now I know I want a nice big rounded end for his foot, but I need like a sausage, a thinner sausage for his leg. So I just start rolling, avoiding the first centimetre of paste until I get the thickness of the leg that I like. And then we can place that down onto the surface so it's upright, and just gently between your finger and thumb, press down and twiddle. So you're kind of turning it as you do. And then go back to reform the sausage if you need. So now you've got almost like a hoof. This could very easily be changed into a horse or a unicorn. Pegasus? Alice? I don't know. Am I being thick? Is it a horse? I don't know. It is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so into a ball, and then use your finger to roll across. Try and achieve the similar thickness to the one you've already got, and then position it upright and press and turn. Go back and just reshape, because sometimes it can make it look a little bit wobbly. All right, so you've got this kind of shape. Now, if I'm measuring the length of that, it's probably about 4 centimetres in length, 1.5 inches. Okay, and these we can pop on. So we're just going to sit that one on one side and one on the other. Winnie the Pooh has got legs shaped like this. Oh, yeah. For your friends and family only, you could make Eeyore, couldn't you? Like that. Just leave enough room in the middle here for the front legs. The other way. So for the front legs, we need 2 balls that are just over 2 centimetres, 3/4 of an inch. And it's important to match the sizes so that you don't end up with one leg larger than the other. And these ones are more straightforward. They're elongated, and they don't really have like a bulbousy bottom to them, end to them. They're more kind of tapering and flat, so a bit like the elephant that I've taught. So into a ball, just change the angle so you can see how I'm holding. So I'm resting this part of my hand lengthways and then pressing down more on one side, the side nearest to you, so this it elongates. And then once you're happy with the length, turn it upright again and do the same pressing action. So you're kind of pressing down just a little bit and you're turning it at the same time. Come back and just give it 1 or 2 rolls just so it smooths off again. And then do the same with the other one. Now, if it's easier, you can actually work just on your surface. Personally, I prefer to work on my hand just because it's closer to me and also it's less likely to fly. or pick up dust, to be honest, because this one's picked up the dust from the surface. And then when you've got it roughly the same length as the other one, you can go ahead, hold it upright and just press down as you turn back onto its side. Roll it a couple more times to even it up and also to get it slightly longer. Okay, so now I've got 2 legs, front legs, and they're about 5.5 centimeters, 2 inches. And they're going to sit together, literally where you've glued across where you marked the belly button. Right in there. So you just pick them both up together and then sit them on, following the contour of the body. I can just press just a little bit at the top here just to flatten them slightly, but that's all you need to do. And by leaving this gap here, it'll make him look taller. The next step is to create the head. And I think it's quite useful to put the glue on around your support stick, but try and avoid touching the support stick with the glue because it can melt the inside of the head. And you'll notice his head's not that huge. He's got a muzzle going on as well. But compared to his body and other characters, it's not huge. So again, we'll go back to our little supply of paste, and you should have a nice chunk left. You'll have more than enough left if you want to make a little baby as well. And just, I need to, like I showed you on the legs, we need to kind of fatten a ball of paste and pop it on and see what we think. Now, I can put this on. I've got to kind of think that I've got a muzzle going on as well. So this is probably big enough. I'm feeling I don't want to put much more on. You've got the muzzle, you've got the hair, the ears, and the little horns as well. So you can choose if you want to make yours bigger, but I'm going to go with this one. I'll show you on the ruler how big it is. So we're going just over 3 centimeters if you're working on scales, about 20 grams. And we'll give that a good old warm up. Now the shape for this is, it's like an egg shape. So it is a fat cone, and the broadest part of the cone, the fattest part of the cone, is actually be the top of his head, the forehead. So nice, smooth, crack-free ball, press down tight to squidge all the air out, release the pressure. And then with the heel of your hand, which will be this part here, we're just going to press onto one side and roll side to side. If you prefer, you can be on your surface for this. So we want to make that come into a kind of a shallow point. It's actually very much how you would shape a human's head if you were creating that. And the pointy end is going to be down, like it's going to be his chin. So we'll pick this up, position it centrally and upright, and just give it, looks like a giant matchstick. Give it a little twist onto your character. And then just turn it around to make sure that that is upright. If it's not upright, you need to pull it off, reposition, and press that back on again. Just be aware that it's quite heavy, so you don't really want to press too hard because it's going to start to crease this part here. And then already we need to paint some glue on the front of the face where his muzzle is going to go, because this is definitely going to need to work itself into the paste to make it nice and tacky. so your muzzle doesn't slide around too much. So the muzzle is very similar to the way I would make a teddy bear or a monkey muzzle, and it's going to house the nose and the mouth. So on the giraffe, it's quite sticky out, but I didn't want to, because a giraffe have quite a long nosy area, but I wanted to make this more cute, cartoony. So I've gone for big but not pointed. I always find that if I were to make that muzzle where it comes to a point, all of a sudden it doesn't look cute anymore. Personal thing. So my ball that I've got here is 2 centimeter diameter, 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to roll this into just an oval shape. So as a ball, I'm just going to put my hand flat up over the top and just roll once and again, and then maybe just press it on the sides a little bit to give it an oval shape. Okay. And this is the widest part, and that's going to be the way you put it on. So this will be the sides, the cheeks. Just bring this into place so you can see how I'm going to put it on. Huge. Now I have a sticky hand, so I feel like I want to put a little bit of corn flour on my fingers, just so that it's not going to cause me a problem as I try and release my finger. And then hold the muzzle so you've got the widest part on the side, position it centrally on the head towards the top of where you painted your glue, and then use your thumb supporting the back of your head with your other fingers. Use your thumb to press it so that it becomes wedge-like, so it's thinner at the bottom. Now, at the same time, this will drop off if you don't gently work by pressing all the way around the muzzle. I'm not trying to flatten it. I do need something that's fairly rounded still. More like an imperial mint shape. So if I turn that round, you can see that it's slightly angled here. Press more on, and then I have to press all the way around. Now, what you might find is that makes your head slope forward. If it does, you may need to just reposition the head. So pull it off, tilt it back a little bit and reposition. Just have a look at it from the top as well. Make sure that you're happy. I feel like I've gone a bit big on this, but we'll go with it and see what happens. It's one of those things at this stage you think, oh, it's not going to look right, and then it does come together with the other features. There's a big possibility that I will need to keep hoisting that up. Now, if you feel like that is going to cause you a problem, you could just take yourself a piece of kitchen towel and potentially just fold that up into, over itself, and then you could use that as a little wedge just to help it. I feel that needs to be cut. Let's see if this will work. We just want something to sit under there, which isn't going to change or distort or mark anything, but a bit of a bib just to help hold it up. You could put a wedge of sponge under there if you wanted to. We'll need to take that off in a short while to do the features, but I'll let you get that one on, and then I'll show you the markings. To make the nose, I'm just going to use the back of a paintbrush. It doesn't have to be anything really big. We just want to make an indentation. Actually, thinking about it, you're probably better, because we want more of a funnel shape, use a cocktail stick. So I'm just going to support the muzzle. We've got to be really light-handed here. Position the cocktail stick in. and then just support the muzzle while you just roll that round. So what will happen is that the point is right in there and you're opening up a funnel shape in the center. Because when we make the nose, we'll make it as a cone. And while we're here, even though the ears are simply attached to the top, I also want to have them fairly secure by putting some glue into a funnel opening. And when you press the ears on, you'll find that that will squidge some of the paste into the hole with the glue, and that will hold them on more securely. Okay, so I've gone in. If I just put the cocktail stick where they are, they're kind of at an angle. We'll leave it like that, shall we? Because in the center here, you've got where the hair is going to go. Just going to raise this a little bit. So here's where the hair is going to go. And you've also got the horns as well. So there's quite a bit going on the head. So you need to give it enough room. Okay. So clearly we don't need to leave those sticks in, but I am going to leave them in because I think it's a good guide for the next bit. And I'll just turn him round so you can see. I want to make a little gully, a little indentation from the very top of his head. Press a little bit and then rock the cocktail stick down towards the nape of his neck. And that will give you an indication as to where you're attaching his mane. And either side of that is going to be where his horns are, and those openings are the same as the way you've created your ears. So if I now take these out, if I tip that up, you can see that's what we've got pretty much. The outer two are the ears, the inner two holes are for his horns, and the indentation in the center is for his mane. The next step is to glue the areas. Having said that, I just want to get you to do the mouth first. So we need to cut a little hole, not a little line, and then mark in the mouth. It's better to do this before you've got any glue on there. So you can use a cutting wheel, or if you've got a sharp knife, then you can use a knife as well. And the idea is I like to use the large end because the small end, the knuckle here sometimes can get in the way and make an extra groove that you don't want. So just support the muzzle so it doesn't push down, and then draw a line down to where you would like the mouth. And I'm going to use the back of the paintbrush, just get that little bit of cornflour dust on there. And we're going to push that into the bottom of the line. And once I've pushed it in, I'm actually going to pull the support down here, pull down so it opens it out a little bit. And as I come out, I'm kind of stroking the bottom lip so it comes away from the paste, just a fraction. Can't really see it from the side. Okay, so on a piece of spare paste, I'm just going to show that to you because sometimes you can press too hard and it ends up breaking. So I'm just going to show you on a spare bit. It's good to practice these things. So I've just got a ball of paste here. This is the muzzle shape. We use the cocktail stick at the top, which was the nose hole. So that's already in there. And then if you take the small end of your cut, the large end of the small cutting wheel, press and draw down. If you're using a knife, you position it at the top where the nose hole is and just rock the blade backwards and come up again. And then with the back of your paintbrush that you've put a little bit of corn flour on, push in So it's gone in about that far, 0.5 centimetre. Support the bottom and pull down so you open up the hole. And then you can apply a bit of pitching pressure here as well, and you kind of drag the brush back out. So the idea is you end up with, from the side, a slightly sticking out bottom lip. Just makes him look cuter. And on here, I'm just going to do that a little bit more. You've just got to be careful you don't pull too much because you might tear through. Okay, and then we can go ahead and paint in some sugar glue into the nose hole. You could use a finer brush if that makes it easier for you. On for the ears and the horns. And also the indentation you've made ready for his mane. That way it all gets to soak in. I'm going to make the ears next, and the ball size is probably good if it's just over 0.5 centimetre, so it's going to be about 1/4 inch. And you want 2 balls the same size. Now, to shape these, I am going to roll them into a cone first of all. So use your finger, position. So if you're right-handed, you have this in your left hand. Position and roll right at the end. So you get a point, a cone. Then take the back of your paintbrush, press the center, and just roll one way a little bit and then the other way. Okay, I'm just gonna, because what you want to do is flatten it in the middle. I hold this possibly, you see that it's narrower in the middle, thinner in the middle. Now they're also a little bit flat on the fattest end, so I'm just going to use my thumb to press down, so we've got this nice triangular indented shape. So I'll just show you that again. Ball, finger on the top just on one side, so kind of roll once one way and then come back, and that should give you your point. And then you could use a cocktail stick as well. Let's see what that does. So press, you'd have to roll a bit more, just a bit more fiddly, but that will work. And if you want to, you can flatten it just using your fingernail. That's quite a nice shape. And those then, I'm going to just match this one because this is a little bit fat on the sides. We'll attach those now to the outer holes that we've marked. So position, so make sure you've got enough room for the horns. And then just to help you a little bit, we're just going to press that onto the area. If you're worried, you could also put, even though we've got the glue across the hole, that only really secures the center of the ear. So you could come across the actual main part of the head. That one's fairly attached. Things do tend to drop off if you haven't got enough glue on there. So if your voice in your head saying add more glue, then go for it. I feel like I want to curl these forward a fraction. So to make this mane, I think that length we probably need about 2 centimetre ball of paste. I think you'll find that it might come out a bit long, but you can certainly trim it and maybe give it a practice run before you expect to be able to make the actual piece that's going to go on to the giraffe. So starting with our 2 centimetre ball, roll it into an elongated cone like we have been doing. I like to put a bit of corn flour on this because it can get very sticky now when you're handling it. So this is probably going to be a bit too long, but we'll see. That's about 6 centimetres, 2.5 inches. Tap it to flatten it all the way along. I'll show you this a couple of times. And then decide which edge you want to trim. So this is going to be the cut edge up here. And it is a bit big. So I'm going to show you how, and then I'm probably going to change the size. So we want to go in. If you line your scissors parallel, so in line with the outside edge, and then just tip them in slightly. So you don't want to do 90-degree angle because it's going to be a bit palm tree-ish. So snip. If you turn your scissors in more, you'll get a larger, a thicker part. So it depends what you like, really, but that's the idea. Okay. This bottom bit here would need to be formed into a point, and then we can shape. This is far too big, so I'm just going to give you another size guide for that and reshow. So we've gone right down now to about 1.5 centimetres, half an inch. Ball. So roll it between your palms. Let me show you this from a different angle. Make sure as well, if you're re-rolling, that it is actually crack free. So go back to that warming up stage. Really tight between your palms. Position on this part of your hand. Press down quite firmly on one side, creating your elongated cone. That's a better length. If I'm looking at the ruler, it's about 5.5 2 inches, 5.5 centimetres, 2 inches. Tap to flatten. If it's sticking, put a little bit of corn flour on your palm. And then we're ready to cut in again. So this is the top edge that I'm going to cut. Starting, line up the blade parallel and then turn it in slightly, but not so angled. Snip. You don't have to snip it all the way through. You can just partially cut and then pull that back. This one here is not pointed, so we can use our fingers to shape in the point, and then we can carry on up. So each cut, I haven't shut the blades completely because it'll make an extra mark here. So I've probably only half pressed my scissors closed. And where you feel you've got an angle, you can just use your fingers to round it off a little bit. So I'm going to do the last one, which I'm going to snip a little bit more deeply. And this one can be turned right up like so. So that's the effect that you've got. And when it comes to attaching this to the character, the fattest end is going to come just front of where your horn marks are. That first small cut is going to be a quiff. Let's change angle. Okay, so you can see he's got a little quiff. So the first the last small cut that I've done, I've just flicked it forward. And then because I've got my glue on there, I can just line that up, push it into the nape of his neck, and then you can flick out. If you need to, you can just find a tool that will allow you to make the mane stand how you would like. I think probably this is the hardest bit, but it's actually the most effective bit. I think he looks really good with the hair. So we can make the horns next, and they're not huge. They are probably, well, they're definitely smaller than the ears. So I want maybe to come in on the ruler. I would measure them at just about 4 mils, so just under ½ centimetre. Kind of luscious blackberry pip size is probably as big as you want it, quite small. And to create them, I'm going to use my little finger, position right in the center of the ball using this part to roll, because it's the smallest tool on my hand. So I'm rolling in the middle. It's almost like you're going to create a cashew nut, but you don't. And it becomes slightly bulbous at both ends. Now, if you feel like that's not big, I'm looking at it thinking maybe we just need a fraction more, because I want it to be a bit more rounded at the end, and it wasn't doing it. So slightly more paste, ½ centimetre this time, and then rolling. Let's roll on one side. That's giving me a bulbous. So it's very similar to when we made the back legs. Okay, I want to come a little bit closer just to make that more rounded. So you can see at one end we've got a ball shape, and this is all the same thickness sausage shape. So I'll just show you that again. So it is ½ centimetre ball of paste. I mean, you could try this finger, but I just think it's easier. So rather than go in the middle, let's start by positioning in the middle, but you're rolling a sausage on one end and keeping a ball on the other. Trying not to create a cone if I can help it. And then just make sure that you've got two similar lengths. Now, you don't want to make these any longer, because when they go on, they can be very fragile if they're knocked once they're dry. So what I'm going to do is just put the pointy end, the narrower end, into the hole that we've already added glue. If you feel like you need more glue, then add that before. This one's a little bit tall, and as a result might move. Just keep an eye on them, and if they are moving, you might need to position them a couple of times. I'm going to do the eyes next, and just to help me in advance, I'm going to paint a little bit of blue where I want the eyes to attach. So we've got him with his eyes closed. That makes easier. And I've just realized I picked up the wrong brush, and look what's happened. I've got black on my face now, but at least you can see. I've just realized I've picked up the brush rather than my paintbrush rather than my glue brush. Okay, so that's on there in readiness. And they're patches, which you can do as 2 circles, or you could make one slightly larger circle and cut it in half. So I'm going to start with 1/2 centimetre ball of paste, a little bit of corn flour on my surface so it doesn't stick, and then press down. So just pop that onto the surface. It's my 1/2 centimetre ball. It's very small, a bit of corn flour on your finger. Press down to create a disc. And then with your cutting wheel or a knife, divide that into 2 pieces. Now, I always find it's absolutely impossible to get 2 the same size by dividing. So you may need to remove a little bit from one lid. Here, that's a little bit broad now, so I'm just going to squish in on the sides. So you've got a semicircle. This one I'll do the same in a moment. We'll just stick one on first. So we'll pick this up. The straight edge is going to be downmost. We'll just sit that onto the area where we've glued. And to ease that across a little bit. And then we can take the next piece, squish it a little bit so it's more rounded. And pop that on the other side. Now, I've given him eyelashes, and now I've started using this brush. I will, because if you've got a finer brush, it might be easier for this because you want to concentrate your glue in the right area. So we're going to just do a little switch of glue across the base of each of those eyelids. Just imagine you're doing your makeup. And with this, it is the smallest quantity of paste. So the easiest way, still working with the darkest brown, is to make a point in a larger piece of paste and then pinch out the piece that you want, which is really, really, really tiny. And then we can run our finger like we would a cone across to create the eyelash. Now, when I say really, really tiny, I feel like I want something a bit more substantial than that. I'll show you on a different camera angle. So it's probably the equivalent of an eyeball if you're making an eye for one of your characters. And we need to match the ball sizes before you start. Okay, so these two look about right. I'll just take one out of the way. Put your finger across the ball, but probably more to one side, and then roll backwards and forwards a couple of times to create an elongated cone. And we can do the same again with the other one. Just make sure they're not dry, otherwise they crumble. It's so small. So there's our teardrops. We've already put our glue on, so we should be able to attach these. So what we do is pick one up. You can use your cutting wheel to pick it up. Just the large end of the cutting wheel is a good tool to collect something you've made on. Okay. The fattest end is going to be innermost. So the fatisen goes inside. Too small. So I'm going to double up and make those bigger. It's always good to test these things. That's better. So into a nice crack-free ball. They dry really quickly. Elongated cone. Pick them up on the thin end. This is like peeling off the sticky back paper that you get on double-sided tape. You know, that pressure you suddenly feel. You know, if you're prone to hot flushes, this will bring it on for sure. And my solution here is going to be not only patience, but more glue. Because if you have a wet surface, it will allow this to come off your fingers quite easily. And the idea here is that we can flick the end up so it looks like he's got curly ashes. The same with this one. If you prefer, you could have this eyelash coming all the way into the corner of his eye, but I'm going to cut my losses. Looks a bit Chinese. Let's bring them in a bit. Or not. If you think it looks right without it, then don't do this bit if it's causing you trouble. The nose can go on next, and I'm going to use, because of the size of the character, I'm feeling like 3/4 of a centimetre. Gosh, it's not even like, that's not even 1/4 of an inch. And this is going to be a cone shape, as I've shown you already. So a ball rolling backwards and forwards on one side only to create a nice point. And then we can go ahead and attach it. So we're going to take the pointy end, feed that in, and then just position the nose how you like. So if you don't want a big nose, then you don't have to have a big nose. I quite like to pinch it top and bottom, and that makes it a bit more oval in shape. Quite cute. And next we're going to do the tail. So the tail, going back to the original colour, if you've run out of that, then maybe do it in the, if you've run out of it actually and you've got some mid-brown, you might just want to add a bit of white to it, so that will probably blend it a little bit more, but hopefully you've got a little bit for the tail. And I would say 3/4 centimetre would do it, because he's only got a very small swishy tail, and there's actually a little cone that goes on the top, which has in fact dropped off of this one. So we've put glue onto the tail hole. If you feel that that's dried, I mean, mine's quite tacky, so that's lovely, but if you feel like you want to add a bit more glue, you can. So into a ball, and this is going to end up just as a plain sausage, or kind of a licorice comfort shape. Don't make it too skinny. I would say it probably wants to be just under 1/2 centimetre in thickness, probably about 3 mil thick. and similar thickness all the way along. And this can just then simply sit at the base of the model. And you can have the tail curved a little bit for movement, but that indentation you put in there will help hold that on. And then we're just going to take a little ball of the brown, so it's probably going to be, again, less than ½ centimetre. This is the dark brown. Nice warmed up piece of paste into a ball, into a cone. And the fat end of that will sit on top, but of course, at the moment it hasn't got any glue, so it won't hold. So we can put a little bit of glue on the top here and onto the giraffe's back. And you could leave it a few moments if you wanted to. This one I'm just going to tweak the tip, and then that can sit. More likely it's holding on to the back rather than the tip of the tail. And to do that, so the discs for the pad of his feet are in the dark brown. So we take off probably, it's deceptive how big these will become. So I wouldn't go a full centimetre, maybe 2/3, so under 1/4 of an inch. And try and match the sizes first, otherwise your patches are going to look odd. So we'll just get 2 balls, same size in the dark brown. And these are just going to be pressed into patches. And when we glue, I mean, you can glue before you make. On this, let me just show you. You wouldn't necessarily glue the whole area that they're going to attach to. You just make it a little bit damp right in the center, and that way you can be sure that you're not going to get any color bleed. Okay, because especially if you were doing this in black, you really would need to be careful how much glue you put on. It's a bit big. So having matched the ball sizes, I'm just going to press down. Now, if you find when you press it cracks around the edge, then go back to the warming up process, because it won't look very nice on your character if it's all cracked. It's just a case that the paste is a little bit on the dry side. And once you've made your patch, all you need to do is attach. Okay, so that goes on the base of back legs, base of the back feet. So again, warm up each piece of paste just before you're going to shape it. And try and keep these as rounded as you can. And drop that into place. So that's your second patch on there. Now, the inlaid parts are a combination of the mid brown and the dark brown. And the way I've done it, I've put the mid brown in first. So we've got probably ½ centimetre just under of the mid brown. That'll be your background colour. These could be different sizes as well, because the giraffe doesn't have smaller, quite a uniform pattern, but it would be smaller shapes towards the top of his body. You might want to put corn flour on your finger as well. So just try and keep that in a fairly rounded patch shape. Doesn't matter if it's not too precise. And then you would take a small amount of brown. I would probably put a dot of glue to one side on the mid brown, and then just be aware that this bit really wants to be quite a bit smaller. It's probably about 3 mil pip size. Start the patch peel it off your finger, pop it onto, so it touches one side, mid brown, and just give it a couple of presses. And the idea is you're trying to inlay so that you haven't got what looks like a patch on top of a patch. You have got something that looks fairly flat. I'll just show you from a different angle. All right, so now it's kind of roughly all the same thickness. Fiddle, fiddle. And then depending on where you want it, you just put a little bit of glue and get that attached. Bit of corn flour on your fingers if you feel like you're going to pull it back off. You can always steam your character once it's made to get rid of any corn flour. So I'll just change the view of that, and I'll do one more patch so you can see. Okay, and effectively that's what I've done all the way around. I always think of peacock feathers when I do this. I know it's not the same colours, but it's that sort of thing. So no more than 1/2 centimetre for your mid brown. 3 ml ball of dark brown. So you can see there's quite a difference. A bit of corn flour on your finger, pressing down on the mid brown. See, it's sticking nicely. If you use like something like the back of a teaspoon or something, it might actually help you a little bit. And I have corn floured that, so it should come off a little bit easier. Maybe do the same with your brown. Touch of glue where you want the brown to attach. Press again using your spoon. Yeah, that works quite well. And then that can go wherever you'd like. We just keep going until he looks like a giraffe. Just be careful not to over glue any areas. So you can put as many spots on you as you like, and if you want to, you could put some on the thigh, top of the thighs, and into the head if you would like as well. It's entirely up to you, so I'll leave you to decide. So I hope you've enjoyed today, and if you would like the kit list emailed to you on this one, it's you're welcome to email me as well with any questions. It's hannah@inspiredcreations.uk.com. So look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye for now.